Was really a historic week for Ripple, XRP, the broader crypto space, and global finance at that. A lot of things you have to know. So I thought we'd bring back today the weekly recap for those that don't have time to get into all the minutiae, all the fine details. Maybe you missed a couple days. Let's hit the high points here so you could get caught up. The first thing was yesterday it was announced that 6 issuers that are trying to get an XRP ETF approved, they all in unison revitalized, their applications. This was Canary, CoinShares, Franklin, 21 Shares, Wisdom Tree, and Bitwise. All three redid their application and resubmitted. And this coordinated type of action usually tells you the SEC is collaborating with them, getting ready to actually approve an XRP spot ETF. Otherwise, they all wouldn't work in unison like this. We saw this same procedure happen before Bitcoin was approved and Ethereum was approved. So this is a really bullish sign. This is a signal that we are close and that the SEC is cooperating and being collaborative here and really thinking about approving things. If they don't want to approve your ETF, if they think now's not the time, they don't talk to you. They just ignore you and it kind of dies on the vine. So this is staying active. It looks like we're getting very close. Probably October will be the day or the month we actually get an XRP spot ETF and quite a few of them. It's important because, again, it allows institutions, pension funds, endowment funds, large investors, new investors that aren't really familiar with crypto to buy this asset. And a spot ETF does have to acquire the XRP from the open market, so it will drive value with that demand, unlike a futures product. So big deal there. Ripple versus the SEC, we knew it was over, but it's official. The appeals court allowed them to both end their appeals and move out of that. The case is permanently closed. There's nothing more to do. Former regional director Mark Fagels told us we don't have to go back to Judge Torres and get anything stamped or signed. Her orders automatically go into effect. There's no more procedures. It is done. There was some concern that the appeals court may make Ripple and the SEC continue this appeal. I guess that can technically happen, but for something this complex, this costly, they're not going to do that. So that was the official closer we just had. That they allowed them to end the appeal. This is probably more important for your really big issuers, people like BlackRock and Fidelity. Like, they want things done with finality. They don't deal with almost or most likely or probably over. Like, they want it signed, sealed, and delivered, and that has happened now. And I think it'll clear the way for your bigger issuers to jump into this market and start filing for an XRP ETF. We were all waiting on what the Federal Reserve would do, and we were hearing a lot of hawkish rhetoric out of people from the Fed that, the economy's strong, inflation's still high, and there's no reason to cut or be less restrictive with their policies. That's the important part. It's not just about the rates. It's the restrictive policy that is designed to kind of choke things down a little bit, right? That's how you stamp in inflation. So Jerome Powell was going to signal to us what the Fed is going to do. And he said the following at Jackson Hole: with policy in restrictive territory, that's where we are now. The baseline outlook and shifting balances, that's what's important, of risk may warrant adjusting our policy stance. So he's signaling to the market that we're going to go from this tightening phase to this restrictive phase over to something being more supportive, lower rates, expanding that balance sheet. It's just going to make it an easier environment to operate in. And he's not doing that because the president is bothering him or going after him. It's because the job market looks shaky. Their dual mandate, they have to try to keep inflation down, keep prices stable as they can. And let's be honest, they're not going to be able to get down to that 2% target. It's just not going to happen. They did the best they could. But now with problems in the job market, they have to defend there and they have to pivot here. And so you saw markets react with the idea that he was going to signal, no, we are going to stay higher for longer, nothing. We're not going to, loosen financial conditions. The markets were selling off, and as soon as he gave that speech, everything popped back. Ethereum went to an new all-time high. XRP back above $3. Bitcoin was rallying up. A lot of your tech stocks were performing quite well. And so the market liked this. Now, you have to be careful. In historically, after Fed pivots, 12 to 18 months down the road, there can be some significant financial concerns. And it's not the pivot that causes that. It's the reason they're pivoting, because there are problems, and there are major problems in our economy. That's why they're doing this. And you just have to be aware of that. Things like the Great Depression, the financial crisis of 08, 09, the tech bubble, like these things all came, fairly soon after a Fed pivot, like 12, 18 months. And there's been a few there that you didn't have that. So it's not a guarantee, just something to keep in mind, specifically if during this bull run or even with stock stuff like that, is you see values really getting bullish and very large, you might want to be careful, at least take some of your money off the table, knowing that there are some risks on the horizon here. Right now, it's tough. We have 2.7% headline inflation, 3.1% core, but those job markets are looking rough. July's report showed 73,000 jobs, and the prior months were revised down by 250,000. Unemployment sitting at 4.2. So we got some problems out there, but what matters is we got the pivot we needed to set up a big bull run here within crypto, and XRP is going to do great. Speaking of the Fed and crypto, we had Fed Vice Chair Michelle Bowen. She said that, look, banks, institutions that don't embrace crypto and blockchain technology, they're going to be left behind. She also advocated that people within the Fed, they should own a little bit of crypto, just enough so they could get to understand it. That's bullish. It's a bullish pivot. We haven't heard things like this. It's a clear message. Adoption is no longer optional in a global race. Bitcoin had some issues here. Two mining pools controlled 51% of the hash power. This was Foundry USA and Ant Pool this week. And here's the thing. Are those two going to conspire to mess with the network? Absolutely not. Will never happen. But the problem is now we have trust. We have to trust Foundry and Ant Pool not to conspire, and that's unacceptable. The point of decentralized systems is, no two parties can conspire. It's not possible. That's really where you get your value there. So we're going to have to see how this is dealt with. First, those miners, they're electively going with those pools. They need to pull out and go with another pool. They have to for the value of the network over time. We'll see how it plays out. But dangerous centralization there with those two miners controlling 51% of the hash power just shows the biggest, most valuable blockchain. It is far from perfect. We have a lot to work through here. As I had said after that Jerome Powell speech, where he showed they're going to have a pivot coming up here next month. You should see a rate cut unless something weird happens here. Ethereum broke out, boom, to new all-time highs. This is positive for the whole crypto market. It shows we're in a growth phase. Ethereum should still go up to new all-time highs. XRP to real all-time highs, not just barely breaking some levels, but actually doing a multiple that takes us much higher, and the rest of crypto market as well. Once those big coins start going up, your flares and coins like this can start to have success. So it's a good indicator that this is really the start of something big, and we should expect probably by end of year, I would think, to really be in the thick of it, getting to really new marks that could be life-changing for many of us. Gemini, interesting. They turned to Ripple this week for a $150 million credit line. They get $75 million now, but they can expand that to $150. They're getting ready to IPO. They burned a lot of cash, about half of their cash. They need more cash on hand to be ready for that. But what's interesting about this, first of all, that line of credit they draw on RLUSD, so that's kind of bullish there. But also, Gemini in the past, they've been kind of negative towards Ripple and towards XRP, and now they have to come groveling for some help for a line of credit. And I think part of this is also you're going to see this shifting narrative where XRP and Ripple, they're not the outcasts, they're not the enemy, they're just part of this crypto space like everyone else. Some people were irritated that Ripple would do a deal with them. But like they say in Game of Thrones, you only make peace with your enemies. This is good. We want to put all this nonsense behind us, and we can all grow together. A great move there by Ripple, and I'm sure it'll be profitable. They'll get some return on that $150 million, I bet here. Pivotal month ahead in October. We're kind of peeking into that month already. XRP ETF decisions, and a lot of ETF decisions may come that month. The president has two ETFs, a Bitcoin and I think an Ethereum ETF on the docket. Solana. Ripple, not Ripple, but XRP ETF is due for decision there. So we may get a flurry of activity there in October, which would be very exciting. I think investors are going to like this. They want to have Bitcoin, they want to have Ethereum, but they want exposure to the broader crypto market. And the size of that investment capital that can come flooding in could be quite large. I think it's a big moment there in October if we get those approved. Further, people are telling me that Ripple could get their banking license approved in October. And if you have both of those things, an XRP ETF and a Ripple banking license simultaneously, I mean, that would be huge. I don't think it's going to happen that quick. I think the banking license stuff will go into next year, but we will see. Now, we saw a lot of panic out there with retail selling XRP because they were concerned about the Fed. Were they going to crush us? All this other stuff. You just see prices going down. You're like, oh no, this is it. Back to the bear market, right? And while they were selling, we saw record-setting buying by whales. They scooped up that opportunity there by major institutional investors, hedge funds, endowment funds, whoever's buying. These are big, big buyers now. These aren't, just Joe Schmo in his basement buying these kind of buys. It just shows that, your big investors understand where we're going, where the opportunity is. And specifically, they were buying XRP very significantly. We saw a $10 billion market cap drop, but an 18% spike in volume. Smart money buys fear, retail sells it, really the worst time. We're already on that recovery, and I think it's just going to continue. Lastly, we had some exciting news from Ripple, hinting that, they're going to make a big push into real estate, into treasuries, and just bringing global assets onto the XRP ledger natively, using the built-in DEX, the AMM, settlement efficiency, low cost, compliance-ready infrastructure. That's what this technology was built for from day one, and they're going to leverage that. And really, institutions, this is what they're asking for, RWA technology. And it just so happens that this blockchain was built for that capability day one. It's going to be a force here. It's going to be a really massive area of growth for blockchain technology here. And XRP and really Ripple with their business should capture a good amount of that. And it looks like they're, locked in there on this specific use case of RWAs. I've heard David talk about this in a lot of exciting ways. They understand the opportunities there and are really strategic advantages. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.